Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it is 7 o'clock, and I will call our October council meeting to order. And it's my pleasure to welcome all the folks that we have in person and those that are watching online. I would particularly like to welcome Dr. Eric Hodges' political science class. If the students that are here would please stand. Welcome. Glad to have you. Hope you have an enjoyable short evening, and I emphasize short. But always glad to have students here to see government in action. So thank you for attending. Also, as a matter of personal interest, I would like to wish Councilman Tommy Parrott happy birthday. We are delighted that you decided to spend your birthday evening with us. I'm sure there was a lot of decision there, go to dinner or go to council. And so we're glad to have you. And sitting over here, quiet as a church mouse, Mr. Dwyer's birthday is Sunday. So happy early birthday on Sunday. So I have birthday guys on either side of me tonight. So Dan informed me that he's turning 45. So that is absolutely great because he and I are close to the same age, and I'll take that. Anyway, we are glad to have everybody with us tonight, and really glad to have Dr. Betty Lou Weaver, who is Missions Outreach Pastor at New Life, who is going to come and do the invocation, after which Vice Mayor Reed will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here. I appreciate it, Mayor and council members and Mr. Davis. Good to see you all. And I appreciate so much that you still have invocation in your meetings and that you have "In God We Trust" on the wall. Makes me feel comfortable as a resident of the town of Farmville. So thank you. Let us pray. Our Father God, as our town council comes together tonight to discuss the purposes, the vision, the projects for our town, please give them guidance in matters at hand, support for each other's ideas, meaningful discussions that lead to real solutions, wisdom in their decisions, and empowerment for success. Grant them, God, a spirit of peace and reconciliation and unity as they move forward. May they listen before they speak, understand before they decide, value and appreciate differences as they challenge each other to be their best. God, we ask these things knowing full well only you can produce such results. Move us forward in your purposes for us as a community. Amen and amen.
Thank you, Dr. Weaver and Vice Mayor Reed. Clerk, would you kindly call the roll?
Mr. Reed? Here. Mr. Hunter?
Here.
Mr. Dwyer?
Here.
Mr. Cole?
Here.
Mrs. Amos?
Here.
Mr. Vincent?
Here.
Mr. Parrott?
Here.
Thank you, sir. Our first guest, Clerk.
Mr. Doug Stanley?
Mr. Stanley, it's a pleasure to welcome you. For those that don't know, Mr. Stanley is the Prince Edward County Administrator, and his wife has been in the hospital very sick with COVID, and she is now home and hopefully doing well. So we are glad to have you with us tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council, staff, Dr. Davis. Yes, the good news is Monday night she was able to come home. I wanted to take the opportunity to express my sincere thanks on behalf of Jenny and our entire family to council and staff and citizens for all the prayers, meals, and support that have been offered. We are truly grateful and appreciative of the Farmville community embracing and supporting us. The prayers have certainly lifted her spirits during these trying times. And thank you also for the beautiful flowers that y'all sent she received today. if she hadn't been vaccinated, she wouldn't be here today. I want to plead with each and every one of you to protect yourself, your family, and your community by getting vaccinated. A couple of things on the board report I'd like to highlight. Certainly, we continue to support the Piedmont Health District's efforts for vaccination and also now testing. Each Wednesday, they've been doing testing at the Peffia Gym. A lot of the state employees that are being mandated to have testing if they're not vaccinated are using that as an avenue to be able to get that done. And we look forward to working with the rollout of the booster shots when they become available. Prince Edward Business Park Access Road, that's out there, the industrial park. We're working with Timmons on some final designs to get that project back moving again. Sandy River Reservoir, Timmons has submitted the withdrawal permit renewal application for that project. We sincerely appreciate the town of Farmville's letter of support for the project. 2020 census information was released this summer that showed that Prince Edward County's population dropped by 1,500 residents from 2010 to 2020 with a new population of 21,849. I reached out, and Scott helped me a little bit as well, to some of our community partners such as Longwood, Hampton-Sydney, and correctional institutions to gauge the impact of their populations on the county population drop. Preliminary indications show that we lost about 600 individuals from these facilities over this time period. In addition, a staff member at Weldon Cooper Center was quoted, I believe in the Herald, stating that due to changes in the counting of college students, Prince Edward could have been undercounted by 800 students. Those two numbers account for what we anticipate as the population drop in the community. Given the fact that we continue to build more houses each year, not that many are torn down, we definitely didn't feel that there was that much vacancy out there, especially as tight as the housing market is right now. And that helps to understand a little bit about what's going on. Broadband, the Board of Supervisors approved a request last month to work with the CRC on the state VATI grant application for $15 million for Prince Edward, Lunenburg, and Cumberland counties for the Connects project to extend broadband out into the rural areas of these three counties. We will use ARPA funding as our local match. Prince Edward's requested match is $2,153,500, which will be paid out over the length of the grant. Connects is proposing to provide fiber to unserved areas of the county within the next 4 years. It's an ambitious project that really could change the game for residents out in the community that don't have access currently. County Planning Commission next week will hold a public hearing on a proposed solar project. It's a Commonwealth Energy project, 304 acres, 208 acres of panels. That's about a 20 to 25 megawatt project. It's located off Rice Creek Road. That's off of Route 15 south heading towards Keysville. We also have probably about another 2,000 plus acres that's under consideration for solar as well. We'll keep you posted on that. FY 22-24 capital improvement plan. Last night, the Board of Supervisors approved the capital improvement plan. One thing I wanted to note on that, of course, is our elementary school project that the renovation is what we're looking at this point and moving forward with. And we'll be meeting in the next probably a couple months again with the school system, talk about that project. Another project that's close to you is the renovation of the Courthouse Lawn and trying to upgrade its image on Main Street and improving the aesthetics. And we're looking forward to hopefully being able to bid that out later this fall and be able to complete that next spring. Wayfinding Signage, we're working with Downtown Farmville and their contractor Frazier and Associates to look at complementary wayfinding signage in the county that will match that that's being installed in the town limits to get visitors to destinations and other tourist locations in and around the community, including visitor center and downtown. And we'll look to use some of our lodging tax that's been put in place this year to fund the project in coming years. The Heartland Innovative Technology, or HIT Park, which is our data center site. The county and our consultant, Timmons, have been meeting with not only Scott, but his staff as well, to talk about access, utilities, and engineering for the site to get it up to Tier 3 status. And in addition, Chelsea White, our Economic Development Director, is working with Timmons on a grant to the Virginia Economic Development Partnership through the Business Ready Sites Program for funding to take the data center site to Tier 4 status. So all the money we're spending on Tier 3 can be used as a match for Tier 4. The funding request is going to be about $1.7 million for that project. Put a footnote there. You can look it up. Dominion's added it to their economic development website, which helps us spread, it gives us additional visibility for that project as well. Redistricting, we stand ready to work with the CRC on redistricting. Obviously, we know we want to avoid things like split precincts, and certainly we have to wait for the House of Delegates and the Senate to those boundaries to be established. I'm not sure if y'all had seen, but there's a couple of proposals out there that would split Prince Edward County between House districts. I can share that information with you, Scott, but we certainly have tried to reach out and make known that we'd like to keep Prince Edward whole in that respect, if at all possible. But we want to avoid, and we'll look at as well, your town precincts to try to keep them as whole. It gets complicated if you walk into a voting precinct and there's 3 different places you could vote because you're splitting your House district at the state level and your town district now that we're all having November elections. So we'll be cognizant of that. Last thing I wanted to mention was solid waste. Last year we had run up against our 100-ton limit with DEQ. We were able to get that permanently extended to 175 tons. We hope that'll give us sufficient buffer for the next few years. And at last night's board meeting, we've approved a contract with Labella to take over as the county's landfill engineer. I believe they've done some work for you guys as well. Yes, I've worked with them for probably 25 years as well. And we'll be working in the next several months to take a look at projections for daily tonnage and eventually construction of our next cell to ensure that the county and town, your citizens, and the waste that y'all pick up will be able to meet those needs for coming decades. But with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions. Again, thank you all for all your support over the last 3 weeks.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? Again, glad you're here. Glad that your wife is at home, and hopefully things will be back to normal sooner rather than later. But as you said, without the vaccine, it would have been a very different situation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Next guest.
There are no other speakers signed up.
Anyone who didn't sign up who wishes to speak? If not, we will move to the next order of business, which is item 6, request approval of the consent agenda. Is there anyone who wishes to pull anything out of the consent agenda? If not, do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
May I make more, we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Motion and second. Any additional discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Item number 7, Treasurer's Report. Madam Treasurer?
Good evening. You have September's Treasurer's Report before you. The semi-annual bond payment was made on September 29th. We withdrew $1,395,134.38 from the set-aside account to general fund, leaving a nice balance of $806,177.55. For the months of October through December, we are only depositing $100,000 into the set-aside account to help with the low collection months until receiving tax revenue. Under the restricted fund, the Motley Lake account has been reclassified to medical compensation and shown under the general fund. 6 employees have left employment and were ineligible for the compensation from this account in September in the amount of $80,960. Do you have any questions?
Any questions?
Sorry.
Correct.
Meaning that they took the lump sum instead of the payment over 10 years.
Yeah, no one took the payment. They took the lump sum.
Okay, any questions?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the treasurer's report as presented.
Second.
Motion and second. Any additional discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Item 8A is approval of the employment agreement for our new clerk, who I believe is in attendance tonight. If, Ms. McKay, if you'd like to stand. Nothing like being put on the spot. Welcome. Well, let council approve it, and then I will officially welcome you. Each of you were sent the employment agreement earlier today by email. If there are any questions, we'd be happy to entertain them. If not, I need a motion to approve the employment agreement to hire Ms. McKay as our new clerk.
I move that we approve the employment agreement for the new clerk.
Second.
Motion and second. Any additional discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Cole,
Yes.
Mr. Hunter,
Yes.
Mr. Vincent,
Yes.
Mr. Parrott,
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Mrs. Amos.
Yes.
On a unanimous vote, the measure has passed.
Now, Madam Clerk-elect, I will welcome you as our new clerk. I believe you're starting on November the 8th. November the 8th, you'll be joining us. We'll be glad to have you as a part of the team. Don't let tonight scare you off. I promise it'll get easier as time goes on. But we're glad. Welcome to Team Farmville. Any other? Okay. Next item. Item 8, request adoption of resolution for Centra Health. Mr. Davis?
Mayor, this was given to us from Representative, a bond attorney for Centra out of Lynchburg. And I think it speaks for itself in that we're the locality in which what this is being refinanced for is located. And so it has to go before the council after the Lynchburg Economic Development Authority.
And there's no liability for the town of Farmville.
Not to my knowledge.
It's a good answer. I didn't think you were a politician.
I'm not.
That was a very political answer.
Well, he was.
Good point, Mr. Dwyer. He was. Okay, questions? Motion?
I make a motion, we request accept the adoption of the resolution for Central Health.
Second.
Motion and second. Any additional discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Parrott,
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Mrs. Amos,
Yes.
Mr. Cole,
Yes.
Mr. Hunter,
Yes.
Mr. Vincent.
Yes.
On a unanimous vote, the measure has passed.
Thank you, clerk. Item 9 is discussion of vacant town positions and funding wage and salary increases, which was discussed briefly at work session. Mr. Davis, I think you have an update for council.
I do have an update. Unfortunately, I don't. I don't know that we're ready to share any numbers yet. We've looked at it for the other. We gave you one set of figures for the police department. I think there's another way that we can look at that as well, from an affordability standpoint. Some of that may be phasing. Some of that may be where that increase is within the organization itself of positions. And this came about when we started looking at Public Works, which is a much larger department. And when you see the initial of what council had suggested of 15 and 16, and then trying to make some of that percentage up over the other positions, it became very costly. Just in round figures, if we were to do the very best we could do for Public Works all the way through, and the very best we could for the police department, it would be over $1 million. And that's not something we can do right now today. So we've got to go back and look at how do we make those positions that we need to fill, get that funded first, and then look at maybe a phasing approach. And so I didn't want to confuse anybody with 4 different drafts of or options. but try to narrow it down to where we can give the best that we can that's affordable at this time. And so I plan on bringing that back at a future point, soon.
If I may, just to comment for a minute on that, at work session, we were each presented with potentially working papers for the police department. And Chief, I regret that has gotten into the public domain, because I understand there are some police officers that are now thinking that this is going to be their new salary and this is what they're going to get. That is a working document, and what you see on that paper is not likely to happen. Because when you look at Public Works and the police, those two departments alone, we would have to come up with $1 million right now to fund it. And then next year, how do you fund it? Quite simply, it would be double of the real estate tax. You would have to double the real estate tax just to fund that portion of salaries. So there's got to be a mechanism of phasing and stepping and pulling rabbits out of hats. So I'm sorry that those numbers got out there, and I'm the one that specifically asked Scott not to bring numbers again tonight for Public Works, because Public Works is going to see these numbers, Mr. Atkins, and go, that's going to be my new salary. No, these are working documents, and we've got a ways to go to come up with something that is totally viable, that works for being able to fund and to supply our needs. And obviously, we're going to have to focus on the lower end. By that, we're going to have to focus on police officers, hiring new police officers, Public Works people, and probably less on the supervisors and the higher end folks. There's got to be some magic here, because we can't fund $1 million. Unless, Mr. Stanley, the county has an extra $1 million that they would like to send across the way, we would be happy to receive that. But again, every locality is in the same position. Every locality is trying to fund police officers and wages, and so it's not easy.
And I just want to piggyback on what you said. I think the goal is, I know from an administrative standpoint and a staffing standpoint, the key is to get those positions. We need CDL drivers. So those are going to have to be increased to get those people, and we've got to get police officers at that level. And the other phased-in approach is where we need to figure how that happens.
Unless somebody wants to make $1 million contribution, then we can fund it all on day one. So any questions about that? I mean, it's not an easy task. Okay, next item is employment policies.
I provided you all with a draft of new employment policies and procedures that has been referred to in the past as Employee Handbook. And I think I shared with you all the biggest is, we put in there about missions and values and ethics. We also put in there some things we didn't have before in reference to a little more in depth in different areas. Pay processes. We're looking at, obviously, we want to do merit-based, not just, get rewarded for your performance and have a better evaluation system. So that's in this handbook as well. But also we had to update those that are federal and state laws that had not been updated in a while in regards to employment law. Mr. Elder has reviewed it. If you were wondering that, it's from a legal standpoint. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? There were a couple of corrections that I had that I've already passed along. Anyone else have any questions? Mr. Elder, you're good with it? Do I hear a motion that we approve it, adopt it?
I move that we adopt the employee handbook.
Second.
A motion and second. Any additional discussion?
One thing, Mayor, I do want to say this, is that the department directors were involved in this. So as this was being built, they were able to provide feedback on portions of the draft as it was being done. So this isn't something that's just being pushed, but they did provide feedback, and we were able to give some different training opportunities based on this as well. So just wanted to put that in there for you.
And there will also be an opportunity, if necessary, to revise it down the road. Okay, motion and second. Clerk?
Mrs. Amos,
Yes.
Mr. Cole,
Yes.
Mr. Hunter,
Yes.
Mr. Vincent,
Yes.
Mr. Parrott,
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer,
Yes.
Mr. Reed.
Yes.
On a unanimous vote, the motion is passed.
Thank you, sir. Next item is discussion of the Howard Family Water Sewer Discount Request. Mr. Davis?
Yes, sir. This is an address on Persimmon Tree Fork Road. This occurred, unfortunately, during a time when retired Chief Howard was in the hospital, and this leak was in the yard. It was not going back into our sewer system at all, and it happened over several months, and it wasn't caught during that time till later on. And as you know, by ordinance, we can only adjust for 1 month. When it goes over several months, administration does not have the ability to credit or do any type of relief. So this evening, we're bringing this to you to give a credit of $275.41 to the owners of this property for a leak that they had from a pipe in their yard coming from our main.
I make a motion to approve the request.
Second.
Motion and second. Any other discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Hunter,
Yes.
Mr. Vincent,
Yes.
Mr. Parrott,
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Mrs. Amos,
Yes.
Mr. Cole.
Yes.
On a unanimous vote, the motion has passed.
Thank you, sir. Item 12. I've already received 2 texts this afternoon inquiring about Halloween. Mr. Davis, do you want to present the Halloween plan?
Sure. We have planned not to have the Halloween parade, if you want to call it, or the Halloween trick-or-treating up and down Main Street. We did not feel that gathering, we get hundreds of kids to do that. We're not planning to do that. However, I would recommend that we allow trick-or-treating to happen in the town and that it fall on the day that Halloween falls on this year.
And that was one of the questions, when will Halloween be? And we've always just celebrated on the day that it falls on the 31st. Because if you celebrate it on another day, they're going to celebrate twice. So Halloween on the 31st, and it is a Sunday. Chief, would you mind, since it's been a couple of years since we've actually had Halloween, there are a few ordinances that apply to Halloween.
Yes, sir. I'd just like to remind everybody that Town Ordinance 1830, which covers mask or disguise, trick-or-treat visitations, and Halloween curfew, it shall be unlawful for any person 12 years of age to appear on any streets, highways, alleys, public parks, other public places in the town, in mask or disguise, whereby the identity of such person is concealed without the permission of the town manager or the chief of police. However, this section shall not apply to children 12 years of age or younger on Halloween night prior to 9 p.m. Not Saturday night, not Monday night, but Halloween will be on Sunday night. So this is the only night that there will be an exception.
And you're not supposed to trick or treat if you're over 12?
Right. Exactly.
Over 12? And the other thing, you can't wear a mask.
There's some that do, we all know that, but you can't have a mask, no.
And the other thing I was asked earlier, if a resident does not wish to participate, the same as always, just turn your lights out, don't answer your door, and people will assume that, you do not want to participate. And for parents, use your discretion. I mean, use your discretion.
Please wear reflective clothing.
Wear reflective clothing.
Yep.
I need a motion.
I make a motion we allow Halloween to fall as is presented on Sunday, the 31st.
My daughter last year, when we voted on this, went into her classroom the next day and told her class that Dad canceled Halloween. I am grateful that she can turn the table on that this year. I'll second that motion.
So she can go in tomorrow and say, Dad seconded the motion to have Halloween. Motion and second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you very much. Okay, staff reports. Mr. Davis?
I only have a few. If you'll notice that where you wanted, the council suggested having stop signs, that we were able to put those up. I will say that I've had several people comment to me that they blew right through them at first. They didn't realize they were there. I've had some tell me that we should put blinking lights on them, especially the one at Fourth Avenue Extended. So we've had some calls, some concerns, but I think overall, hopefully it'll work out. One other topic that I wanted to bring to your attention is that, and I wish I had brought it to the work session earlier, our COVID leave has expired at the end of September 30th. For employees that do, and we haven't had many lately, but there's still some that are contact-wise, or we've had a few. It ran out at the end of September. The federal government did not extend theirs that we can find anywhere. However, it doesn't mean that we can't. So I'm bringing it up to council tonight that it is a concern for me that if we don't extend it, do we begin to have employees that say it's only a sniffle, even they because they may not have a bad case, but they come to work with it because they don't want to use their own time for 10 days, 14 days. The other thing that we could do is, because I have to worry about every single employee. The other thing we could do if we don't extend it is, I don't want to go down the route of vaccinations and all that, but at least we could say that if you're not, that you could have to wear a mask. These are all these different things that we could implement, but I think the easiest is to say we would extend the leave time.
How long?
I would like to do it through the beginning of the year of the calendar year, so the end of the calendar year, and bring it back. It may be retroactive again come January, but I'd like to at least carry it through the first part of the.
What has been our policy as far as that is concerned?
I'm sorry?
What has been our policy as far as the COVID leave is concerned?
You get up to 80 hours of COVID leave. So in other words, 2 weeks is covered. But once you've used it, that's it.
And you want to start that again now until the first of the year, is that what you're saying?
Correct.
You're talking about resetting everybody's to 80.
No, I'm talking about extending it beyond so that
Anybody that hasn't used theirs, extend it till the end of the year.
Correct.
Okay.
No, not giving another 80 to people.
I'd like to make a motion that we extend it to the end of the year.
I have a motion and second. Any additional discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Anything else?
No, sir.
Okay. Let's go around the council table and then we'll come back. Mr. Cole?
Nothing. Thank you.
Mr. Hunter?
Nothing from public safety.
Mr. Vincent?
Nothing from Parks and Rec at this moment, but I would like to officially extend a congratulations to our Vice Mayor, Mr. Reed, for being appointed or elected to Vice President of the board at the VML conference that we attended.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Not a thing.
Mr. Parrott, Mr. Dwyer?
Just back to the stop sign comments. I had a gentleman pop in my office today who's a resident he said, I see those 4 signs at the top of Hurd Street and 4th Avenue extension as an opportunity for 2 more stop sign runs through. And we debated it for quite a while, and I feel confident that we did the right thing. In my opinion, he thinks it was the wrong thing, but anyway, I told him I would at least pass on that that he was concerned that there's too many stop signs there.
The only one concern we did have as staff is one of the signs does have to set back some from that intersection based on how the intersection is set up. And so it does bring you back a little bit further in the road. That was the only concern that we have at this point.
Any other comments? No. Mr. Reed?
No, I just had a concern about our standing committees. I think I questioned it before. How everybody is concerned about our standing committees we have, and do we still need standing committees, or we do not need them?
And you know what? I told you I'd put it on the agenda, and I forgot it. So now it's a good time now to discuss it. Mr. Reed has brought back the idea that we do away with standing committees. We no longer have standing committees, and council just acts as a committee as a whole, and that everything be discussed at the work session. So we want to bring it back to council to have a discussion. And if anybody has thoughts one way or the other, now it's time to speak. Y'all have thoughts. I know this group too well. Y'all have thoughts.
Mr. Reed, do you have your thoughts on whether we should or not, or it's just an open-ended question?
It's just an open question, because some localities I've talked to, I know I talked to 5, they don't have standing committees because they discuss their work session as a whole. When you have standing committees, you still got to bring it back to the council and discuss it again, so.
Seems
All right.
like to me it'd be a lengthy council meeting. Section, yes.
That would be my concern as well.
Hey, let's just, I'm good at this. I'm good at putting people on the spot. Mr. Cole, let's just go around the room.
I'm in favor of keeping it as it is.
As Ms. Amos said, it would make it lengthy, but I can see Mr. Reed's point in reference to some things that we should be discussing. We don't get information on until late. But with me, I'm fine with the way it is, though. I really am.
Mr. Vincent?
I'm not opposed to the idea, given that I think, a lot of times discussions happen in committee meetings and then it's bumped up to the full council, and at that point you don't get sort of the full fleshed out discussion. And a lot of those decisions kind of get made and bumped up, and then it's harder to go back and sort of re-litigate some of the issues that may have arose at the beginning and get your questions answered. So I can understand that concept of everybody being together to go through it. I think there's an opportunity there for everybody to be more well-informed on how those processes happen. Will it make it longer? Potentially, but I think if it's a work session, it's a work session. I mean, it's the same agenda as what we're doing now, right? How much longer could it really be? Let's find out.
Mr. Parrott?
I'm perfectly fine the way it is.
Mr. Dwyer?
I think it would make for, I believe I would be a better informed councilman if we did go to it. I would be in favor of it.
Mr. Reed? You want me to come back to you? Ms. Amos?
So I'm the new kid on the block, and I just, in committee meetings, we talk about some sensitive things. So I think I would like to stay where we are.
Mr. Reed, you want to weigh in? Or have you already weighed in?
I already weighed in. I just wanted to see where we go from here.
I have a couple of concerns. I understand both sides. I wish, like last week, the Finance Committee had really went into the raises and stuff before it was brought here and went out into the public, because it's going to cause Scott some issues. Because there are people, when employees see those numbers, they immediately think this is what it is, and it's a working document. And sometimes they don't understand working documents. The other thing, to Mr. Vincent's point, sometimes, and particularly with recreation, there are projects that the committee can drill into, take field trips, and really work, that the council as a whole is probably not really interested in. When I picked committee chairman, I tried to pick committee chairman based on their interest, their talents, their abilities, because if we're honest, not everybody up here is interested in spending a lot of time on every single thing, and we're a pretty diverse council, and so therefore it allows everybody to sort of become an expert in one area. And having said all that, I can, whatever is the pleasure of council is fine with me. But I do think the committee system allows more exploration of ideas and drilling deeper and having more discussion. And committee meetings are open to the public, and committee meetings are open to all council members. I mean, it's not, there's nothing secretive about committee meetings, and there are minutes actually of committee meetings. So it is absolutely is a public meeting. There are minutes. I tell you what, let's dwell on what we've heard tonight, and we'll come back and make a decision next month. How about that?
That's good.
Anything else, Mr. Davis? Oh, I skipped you. My apologies.
So I have a little bad taste in my mouth over the salary structuring, and I just want to just say a couple of things. First and foremost, I just want to commend the Finance Committee led by Mr. Coles for their hard work on the police department salary restructuring. I think what was presented was very fair. It was very competitive. It was geared towards improvement and retention. So I think we need to implement a proposed salary increase now. Our department is understaffed. They do an incredible job keeping our town safe every single day. The officers' duties are vast, from patrolling the town streets, answering calls, court duty. They are tied up at Centra on ECOs for God knows how long. When they're tied up, say on midnight shift, on the 12-hour shift, that leaves a skeleton crew on night shift covering the streets of Farmville. From heroic acts to saving a life from a burning car in the middle of the night. So our law enforcement officers have a thankless job, to be honest. So if we take our current starting police officer salary of $38,250, if you break it down per hour, it's only $18.39 an hour. That's pitiful. So with the proposed working document that you guys are talking about, it's a 17.7% pay increase. The starting salary will be $45,120. That equals $21.64 an hour. I mean, that's not a whole lot, to be honest. And I realize we have to do something for the town employees, the town shop also. I mean, I value all of our employees. I mean, we have the best employees of any town in the state of Virginia, honestly. We have the best police force in the whole state of Virginia. I put our dispatchers up against any department in the state of Virginia. And another thing we need to recognize is Virginia lawmakers just voted to give bonuses in the amount of $3,000 to the sheriff's deputies and correctional officers and $5,000 to the state police this year. And our locality's got nothing. So, I mean, we're currently short-staffed, Andy is. We've lost officers to better agencies. And low pay has caused recruitment in our local rural areas to become extremely low. So, you know, I'm sitting here standing for our officers that they need our support and they need our leadership now. It's not in January. It's not in July of next year. It's right now. So that is my piece.
You've heard Ms. Amos's plea. What's the pleasure? I mean, I don't disagree with anything you said that you know, they deserve our support. The question is, where do we get the money from? So,
This is not against Ms. Amos by any means, and I don't want anybody to construe that at all. But I feel obligated as the town manager that I have to speak for all the employees. And I will say that there's no doubt that I think we have deficits in two key departments that make our town function the way that it does. One is protective service from the police department, and the other is public works, which collects our trash, paves our streets, cleans our streets, makes sure we can flush our toilet, cut on our faucet, all those things that everybody takes for granted that is inside of a hole that's 8 feet deep. It's very dangerous as well. And those employees are not even at the wage that the police officers. I'm not trying to compare the two because there's no you cannot compare because it's two different types of work. And that's the problem with when you classify employees. You do it based on the job duties that they're doing, but also on their work experience, their education experience, certificate, all these things. But if we lose many more, we actually are in a more deficit in public works than we are in the police department. And if we lose any more CDL drivers, the town that you all like, that we all like, by 24 hours later, all the snow's off the roadways, that's not going to happen. So I don't think we can put all of our eggs in one basket in one department. We've got to look at this beyond that at both to where we can have benefits in both areas instead of just fixing one and then thinking of, we have $600,000 in contingencies. We can't spend all of that because we might have a rainy day. We don't know how we're going to end. We're only 4 months into this fiscal year. We can't spend it all now. We've got to have something to come back on if something doesn't work as we've projected. So we can't spend all of that. We already know that at the very highest, we talked about this already, the police department's at over $300,000, all the way up and down. I just think we can't do, I can't say to you from my perspective, representing all of them, that we do one only all the way up and down and not come to a consensus on doing something that still keeps us from being in the hole at the end of the year if something were to happen. That's the only point I'd like to make.
I think the law enforcement was the catalyst for this conversation when it first originated. So we obviously all recognize the importance there. I mean, that's what spearheaded this and kind of put the burners on. But much like I appreciate the new employee handbook and the policies that are laid out there, I appreciate the idea of setting policies and pay across the board and not just doing sort of piecemeal as you go. And so I can appreciate the idea that I think we still need to continue to look at both of those departments in particular and come to some consensus there to move forward.
I don't think we can decide this tonight because I think it's too broad of a spectrum with too big of an impact. I'd like to see it go back to the Finance Committee, let them kick it around, look at it, see if they can come up with some different ideas and possibly come up with a middle of the road, so to speak, solution to this. I know that I kind of feel the same way as our town manager in the fact that I don't want to slight one in favor of another. I think we need to try to meet in the middle for both with some type of a reasonable solution, maybe not all at one time, but over a period of time to where we can encourage people to come back to work for us again and hopefully retain them.
I don't think we realize that this problem's been going on for a long time. And the chief and I had many conversations of, we used to ask each other, what's the county starting salary? What's the Longwood's county starting salary? And we've always been behind, if I'm correct. We've always been behind, and in this day we knew it was coming, but now it's just snowballed now. So now, of course, we have to include the public works and the rest of the employees. And we have great people that work for us. Sometimes we're gonna lose people because it's just the nature of the beast. And I'm a great proponent of the department and growing up in law enforcement myself. But at this time, I can't just throw it that way as much as I want to. That's when my heart bleeds. We're gonna have to plan it out to make sure that we're taking care of everybody, because we're not thinking about it, we're playing favorites. We do need the safety, but we also need the structure. So I just think we need to plan it out to make sure we're taking care of everybody and doing it the right way, and making sure the future is taken care of instead of we ending up back where we are.
I want us to make a fiscally responsible decision and not a knee-jerk. You know, I felt like we've already done that previously, and it didn't really address the core issues that we were faced, which I asked for some delays. So this time we need to take care of them, but we also need to understand how we're going to pay for it today as well as the future. And if we jump into it too rashly with another knee jerk, then it potentially is going to force us to raise taxes for the citizens, which is something that we don't want to do unless it's absolutely necessary. So taking the time to massage this and to make sure that we do everything that not only impacts and for our town employees, but also for the taxpayers. We have to take that into consideration when we look at this, because everybody's dipping into the pockets. I don't know if you've seen the inflation reports lately. We're double-digit inflation. It hurts. It hurts everybody. So we've got to be responsible in this process to make sure that the solution is going to be fiscally responsible on our part.
I'm in complete agreement. I think we have to give it. I think we have to give it a little time to and let let's work through the numbers. We're just coming out of not completely out of, but coming out of a tough financial time, and I think we just need to work through it.
Mr. Reed?
I agree. We just have to, take our time and work through it. But again, to go back to the committees, I think we need to discuss this as a whole and then come back and make a decision on it.
Oh, thank you for your feedback. Thank you.
Where am I? Mr. Davis, anything?
No, sir. I think we're ready for a closed meeting.
Okay. Mr. Atkins, did you have anything?
Real quick, we only have to do a recycling report every 4 years now to DEQ, and last year in 2020, we did it. We did 42% of the town solid waste, we do 42% of our solid waste. We did 2,749 tons of trash and 1,980 tons of recycling. Picked up 243 tons of rubble. I'll remind you all, Monday's cleanup campaign, clean up anything in town. Citizens put it out there, we pick it up, as long as it's not hazardous material. And last night we got called out about the sewer about 9 o'clock. Y'all saw us on Oak Street, we couldn't fix it last night, we fixed it today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Chief? Okay. Mr. Vincent, are you reading the closed? Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the Farmville Town Council convene in closed meeting pursuant to the Code of Virginia in accordance with the provisions of paragraph A.1 of section 2.2-3711 for discussion of the town building official position.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor? Any opposed? Ayes have it. We will meet in the EOC room in closed session. And we will only return to, I don't anticipate any action other than to close the meeting. We thank all of our guests for attending. We got you out within an hour.